Hello, my name is Henriette and welcome back to my channel. If you're new, I'd love to have you here. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make some really cool indoor and outdoor decorations for Halloween. I'm going to start with this ghost for the outside, but I'll also be making a coffin later on, and I'll show you how to make a few things for indoors too. I spent many years working in events, hence I'm uniquely qualified for this sort of thing. I'm starting off by building the frame for my ghost, and I'm using bits of wood that we've already got. And I'm also getting a little help from my husband now and again because he couldn't resist. The head I'm using here is a polystyrene wig head that you can find on eBay quite cheaply. The fabric here is also from eBay, and I simply search for cheap white fabric. I'm staining it in a bit of tea just to give it the right colour. This is gauze that again I'm staining. I'm going to be using my lovely bubble wrap to shape the head into the shape that I want, and I'm making sure that I tape it all down using some packing tape. And it was time to start fitting the fabric. And whilst I'm doing that, I wanted to tell you why Halloween matters so much to me. We live in a Gothic Victorian house, so I feel I have to do it just because of that. And also, Halloween was the favourite time of year for both of my children. And although they're both grown up, they still love it. All I'm doing here is just hemming the top and the bottom of my sheet, or fabric if you like, just to make sure it doesn't fray and that it lasts for longer. I wanted my ghost to have some arms just to make him stand out a little bit and not be like anyone else's ghosts. And to keep costs down, I'm just going to make them out of wire hangers and some skeleton hands that I already had. I'm going to attach them using my staple gun, and then it's time to wrap them in some bubble wrap. I want them to look like, I don't know, human arms. My previous video was also all about Halloween and making your own props and decorations, and you would have seen me using a lot of bubble wrap. Now, bubble wrap is great for creating shapes, and I love using it. I'm going to wrap the hands in some gauze, the gauze that I stained earlier on, just to make them tie in a little bit better and make them look a bit softer or less creepy. I'm also pinning and sewing various bits of fabric together just so that I'm in charge of how it's going to fall. So I'm especially concentrating where the arms are and down the sides. The very last thing this ghost is going to need are some eyes and of course a mouth. And I'm just using leftover black fabric which I'm going to glue gun onto the ghost. My cheaply made ghost is finished, but you're going to have to wait to see how I style him until I do my front yard video for Halloween. My next project is a wreath, and this one came from HomeSense and it was $16.99. These posable skeletons came from Amazon, and I'll be sure to link them below. Please note that none of the products featured in this video are sponsored. As I'd sat my first skeleton on top of the wreath, I thought it might be fun for the second one to climb up a little ladder. And I didn't have a ladder, so I set out to make my own. And I'm just using 10mm jute rope here, which I'm just cutting and gluing into a ladder shape. I think this is the wreath I'm going to be using for our front door, so I wanted to have a bit of fun and a bit of movement in it, just so the kids like it. I would love to hear from you about what you're going to do for Halloween. Are you planning on making some project yourself? Are you decorating inside and outside? And what is your colour scheme going to be? I think I'm sticking with the off-whites, the browns, black and of course orange. My wreath needed a little bit of black, so I decided to add some of these mini crows. and I will of course link these below in the description box. I think it's so much fun making things for Halloween. I mean, you can really think outside the box in this season and get really creative. Here comes my wreath all finished, and you'll be seeing that again in my Decorate With Me videos for Halloween. So I promised that I would show you how to build a coffin, and I want this coffin to be real life size and wooden. I'm using my plastic skeleton here for sizing up the coffin, and this bit of old plywood is going to be the bottom. So I'm just going to mark it out in the shape of a coffin. That husband of mine decided to join in, so this is going to be a joint project between the two of us. And of course, this left Rupert feeling left out, so here he comes. This is the basic shape of our coffin, and we are now ready to build up. So I'm cutting a lot of battens. If you like, we're kind of building the skeleton of the coffin, no pun intended. We pre-drill and screw all of these battens onto the base of the coffin. Once all of this was done, you should end up with something looking like this. Then sawed some more and ended up with a lot of uprights, which we can now fix onto the coffin. We use some wood glue for this stage to make sure that it stays strong. Then it was just a case of pre-drilling and securing with screws. It was beginning to take shape, but we also needed to add some framework at the top of the coffin. We built this coffin over a couple of days, and honestly, we had so much fun doing it. Now, we had picked up some fence paneling for the sides of the coffin because that was the cheapest way to go about it. We didn't have a pallet, otherwise we would have used that. The other reason why I quite liked using fence paneling was the fact that it's really light, and of course we have to be able to move this coffin around. Fixed the top panel first because I wanted the top to be flush. So far, so good. I wasn't quite done yet, so I decided to cover the bottom of the coffin with some burlap. Now you can pick this up really cheaply from eBay, and it is biodegradable, so great to work with. And I'm just using my stapler to make sure that it's all attached to the sides or bottom sides of the coffin. Time for Mr. Skeleton to go in, and I'm just going to hang him from the top of the coffin using a hook. I am planning for this coffin to be standing upright. We had some boards left over, so I couldn't help myself. And I'm going to add a bit more detail. Whilst I'm doing that, I can't help thinking that maybe this skeleton needs a name. I'll be open for any suggestions. A bit of spider's web, and then I think that just about does it. I think this has turned out to be a pretty awesome prop. But I would dread to think what something like this would cost if you didn't make it yourself. My next little project is of the edible variety. And this one is great to do if you've got kids or grandkids. They absolutely love it. Make sure that you clean your spiders really well before placing them into the glasses. And then I picked up some orange jelly, which I'm now going to make up. To be honest, I'd kind of forgotten about this one, but my daughter reminded me because I used to make these for all their Halloween parties. If you are enjoying this video so far, please like, subscribe and comment. It really helps my channel and I love hearing from you. Once I've poured my jelly, I just leave it to completely cool down before I put it in the fridge for approximately 4 hours. Once the jelly has set, I bring it back out, and now the fun really begins, because this is all about how you serve it. I like to serve it on some spider web, but to be honest, just do whatever takes your fancy. I'm only going to use 4 jellies on this occasion because that's how many I'm going to need, but do as many as you like. I've had a look through my decorations and I'm just going to add bits and bobs like a skull, like this book here. I'm really into adding books this year. I think they work really well with Halloween. I'm also adding some bones and a spider, just anything you've got really to make it fun. And the bonus is that the kids get to take a spider home with them. I also thought it would be fun to show you how to make a witch's cauldron. And this project is pretty self-explanatory. So I thought it might be fun to tell you some Halloween facts. So did you know that princesses and superheroes rank as the most popular costumes? Barbie was one of the most popular costumes for adults last year following the success of the Barbie movie that came out in July 2023. But princesses and superheroes still continue to be top choices, followed by witches, fairies and dinosaurs according to Google Trends. And did you know that candy corn was originally called chicken feed, and that the sugary recipe has gone largely unchanged since the 1880s? Love them or hate them, you can't argue with that kind of consistency. Now back to this cauldron. So I'm basically using a bucket, one that I had already, and I'm going to transform it into a cauldron. I'm using bits of quite thick cardboard that I'm going to attach all the way around in order to change the shape. Now I'm making sure that I use duct tape or Gorilla Tape I'm using here on both sides of the bit of cardboard. It is important to do both sides because it will give it strength. I'm going to leave 1.5 to 2 inches in between each bit of cardboard, and you should end up with something looking like this. Next, I'm going to cover up a couple of the holes that the rope left behind, and I'm just using a bit of Gorilla Tape for this. Time to cover up this new rounded shape, and I'm using Gorilla Tape here, but duct tape will do just fine. I then cover it with some paper mache, which is basically newspaper, and I'm gluing it with school glue or PVA glue. I'm doing it to give it a different texture so it doesn't look like it's just tape. I left it to dry overnight, and then it's time for some painting. Now I'm using paint that I've already got, and this isn't completely black, but it will do. And I'm also, after it's dried, gonna paint it with some outdoor varnish because it's gonna be standing outside for a while. I'm going to finish my cauldron off with a bit of 10mm rope. It's a jute rope, and I'm adding a little plumbing bit, I don't know what it's for, just as a handle. And I think that's all I'm going to do with this cauldron. So here it comes, all finished. The last thing I wanted to show you was some different ideas on how to fill jars. In this first one, I'm going to use brown shredded paper, and I can't quite remember where I got this from, maybe a hamper or something like that. And then I'm going to add some little pumpkins and some spiders. I had some gauze left over, so I thought it might be fun putting some of that in my next jar. This is the gauze that I've already tea stained, so it's not bright white, it's sort of off-white. I'm going to add some witches' brooms and also a couple of little witches' hats. This next one I'm going to be using Spanish moss. I love using Spanish moss, it's such a lovely natural material. I'm going to add a few little skulls and a couple of spiders, and that ought to do it. I am obviously going to style these in a future video, but I wanted to add some black bows just to, I don't know, get some real contrast. For my last jar, I'm going to be using burlap. I think burlap is great for anything to do with Halloween. And I'm going to add some bats to this one. That's all from me today. I hope you have a fabulous week and I'll see you soon. Much love from London.